I was super lost over 13 years ago when I started photography because I didn't know if I needed lens filters, and it's very easy to get lost and buy many you don't need or don't buy any when actually some of them are quite crucial. And you're gonna learn in this video the main filters you're gonna need, and I'm gonna show you how you can apply them to your photography niche, how they work, and I'm gonna show you as well real life examples for you to be able to see if you need them or not. And the main filter you may need, and actually I would say almost for sure you need, is an ND filter. But I'm gonna talk about variable ND filters. Why? Because they are way more versatile. An ND filter is basically sunglasses for your lens. It cuts light from entering the lens. In that way, you can maintain your ISO, aperture, and shutter speed like you want it, rather than having to sacrifice one setting, because otherwise a lot of light is gonna enter the sensor. So there is loads of them, so you're gonna be able to choose between many. So a normal ND filter, it has just one stop, two stops. But you choose a variable ND filter, it's gonna be more versatile because you're gonna be able to rotate it and choose between few stops, which is gonna be way better rather than changing filters all the time. So I always choose variable ND filters because you can choose between 2 and 5 or 6 to 9 or many others, but these ones are my favorite ones. And you're gonna be able to record better footage for videos. For example, in my situation, when you record video, you have to shoot at a certain frame rate and you have to shoot at double shutter speed to create the perfect blurry effect on the shots. And you couldn't do this if it's not with a variable ND filter to cut the light, because you cannot move the shutter speed at all when you are recording. Another situation is for portrait photography. If you have a lens with an f1.4, like the one I'm shooting with right now, and it's very blurry when you shoot at a very shallow depth of field, if you are shooting outdoors in a sunny environment, you're gonna have to pump that shutter speed way too much or shoot at a very high depth of field, and you're gonna lose all that blurry effect. So why do you have a very wide aperture lens if you're not gonna be able to use it? So variable ND filters is for that as well. Also for landscape photographers is crucial because if you want to shoot a long exposure picture, like very low shutter speed to take this kind of silky effect on the water, you're gonna have to cut light in the sensor because the shutter speed has to be low. So you can put variable ND filters on top to cut the light. So in all these situations you can use it. It's literally like sunglasses, and there is many of them. So as higher the number, the more light is gonna cut. This is the simplest way to explain it. Then you have a CPL or circular polarizer. These are super useful, and I think every photographer needs one in the camera bag because they are very useful to cut reflections over glass, over windows, even over water. If you are shooting under the sun in the sea, for example, wet rocks, or also over leaves in the forest. Because there is a lot of glare with the sun in the forest or in nature, you can cut that with a CPL. And actually for the sky, it's very useful. I use it for this a lot because it's very easy to blow out the sky. So with the polarizer, you rotate it and you can see the sky gets more saturated, less hazy, and it looks way better. So a CPL I think is crucial for everyone. I highly recommend you to have that. Even if you don't have a variable ND filter, a polarizer is very useful, and it can do the job as well as a variable ND filter, but not as much. So I recommend you to have these two for sure. And the third filter, which I love, but you actually don't need, you don't need it at all, but it's super nice, you will see why, is a mist filter. This filter, what it does, it creates like a glowy effect. It cuts contrast and it plumes the highlights. So it's super beautiful, and it's very used in cinematography to put the highlights with a bit more glare and more diffuse. And this is super useful for portrait photographers as well. I may do a full portrait photo shoot with the mist filter I have for you to see how beautiful it is at night. During the day as well, as you saw in this B-roll, but at night is super nice with city lights because the city lights will look in the background very diffused, and I think it's super beautiful and very cinematic. The mist filter as well is super useful in sunny days because when it's too contrasted the image, because of the hard lights and shadows, this can help with the effect to soften the image. So for photography and for video, for both, it's beautiful, but this again is something you don't need. It's just something super cool and creative to use in your pictures or your videos. These three filters for me are my favorite ones and the ones I use the most after 13 years. But you are a different photographer, you have other needs. I'm just showing you what I think is more basic and crucial for every photographer out there, but then you can make your own decision. And I'm gonna show you the ones I have. The Polar Pro from Peter McKinnon, variable ND filter, is this one. And I have no complaints about that. I used it a lot, but it's very expensive. And I bought it before I've got these ones, which I will explain in a bit. So the Polar Pro is very good quality, it's very expensive, but it's very well worth it because obviously it's expensive glass over an expensive lens. And for this, I always recommend you to invest in a good glass. We always want to save money, and if you follow my channel, you know that I always give you affordable options for studio lighting and for everything. But if you have an expensive lens, don't put a cheap filter on it, because what's the point to have an expensive lens if you're gonna put like a crap filter? So don't do that. Polar Pro is an amazing brand, I'm sure you heard of it, but the other brand, and this is a pack which is way better regarding price, is Freewell. I don't know if you heard about it, but it's quite popular as well. And this is a pack with many filters, and they are very useful because there is so many of them and you can combine them. So it's 7 in 1. This pack can seem a bit pricey, I'm gonna put it down below for you to check it out, but it is not. Because you compare the price of the Polar Pro, which is just one, with all of this, you will realize if you buy all these filters separately, it's gonna be way more expensive. So it's a very good pack to have. So you would have a base ring that you can screw in the lens, and that's it, because then it works with magnets. This is key, and this is super good for me, because with the other one, you would have to be changing all the time filters, screwing and unscrewing, and can be quite annoying, and you can miss even pictures doing this. But with the magnetic filter, it's not gonna happen. You put the base, you screw it, and it comes with a variable ND filter base, which it cuts right away one stop only. And then you can put the 225 on top, and you can rotate it to adjust it as you want. And it's super cool because you have 225 in one filter, and it has hard stops. What is hard stops? When you rotate it, there is a point when you cannot rotate it more. And this is super useful because others don't have it. And if you rotate, it's gonna create a very ugly cross, like a gradient, which is awful. And this happens a lot with other lenses which are cheaper, but this one has hard stops, so you cannot screw it up. And then what you can do as well, you have from 6 to 9 stops, variable ND filter. So you can change it upon this one instead to cut more light. And then if you remove everything, and you even remove the base, you can add the mist filter I told you about, and you can even combine the base of the mist filter with the ND filters you want from the pack. And there is more, because if you rotate the 2 to 5 stops variable ND filter, it's gonna become a polarizer. It's incredible that just turning the glass around is a completely different filter. I've been trying them for months, and it's super cool. And there is more. If you rotate the 16 variable ND filter, behind you're gonna have a ND filter 32 plus a polarizer. So it's a very hardcore polarizer to cut a lot of light. So you can do so many combinations with this, and I think it's incredible for the price. So I still use the Polar Pro when I take just one and I want to go very minimal and don't carry the pack, but as you can see, it's very compact. So it's very cool, and I have them all the time on my camera bag, more than the Polar Pro one, because you have so many. Everything you need is in one pack. I'm gonna put everything below, and actually Freewell sent me this pack, so thank you so much Freewell for sending them over, because I've been using them for months before doing this video, because I wanted to test them out first, and they look great. And actually I did have before the ND filters pack for my drone. With a drone, it's very easy to burn out the skies, and I'm gonna be honest with you, the drone footage makes a huge difference with ND filters. There is more dynamic range, it looks better quality, and being even more honest, when I was a beginner, I didn't have ND filters of any kind or polarizers, I didn't have anything, okay? I wanted to save money, probably like you, and then when I became a professional photographer, I had to confess I spent many years with those filters as well. And then when I decided to buy the Polar Pro, my pictures got better. So time ago, when I didn't have them, you can see here some pictures from Cuba, from Indonesia, and from other countries I've been to. And I did view out the skies because it was very sunny and I didn't have filters. And what happens now, I cannot come back to Cuba that easy or to Indonesia again to take the same shots. So basically, I did rubbish shots for not having filters and wanted to save money. Do you need filters? I think you do. You can pass without them, like I did for many years, but it's gonna improve your photography immensely. You saw what it does. It really helps with the image to don't blow out highlights. The shadows are softer because it's not as contrasty as with the highlight. And I think overall you really need at least variable ND filter and polarizer. And if you want a pack like this one where you can combine all of them together, this pack is great. This is entirely up to you and to your needs. So whichever video you see out there, take a bit from everything and then decide what you need. Don't get lost in many cool filters because there are many and they're super nice. I would buy them all, but buy what you need first. And then when you have budget, go crazy, like I do sometimes. But the basic one, polarizer and ND filter, variable ND filter, because it's way more versatile. And a bonus tip, I almost forget about the bonus tip, which is gonna save you tons of money. I'll show you, I have it here, is this little ring over here. It's called a stepping ring. So when you buy ND filters, variable ND filters, polarizer, any lens filter, you have to take the diameter of your lens. So I bought my filters for my 77mm diameter 24-105 from Canon for that lens because I use it a lot. But then I wanted to use them with my Sigma Art 35mm f1.4 I'm recording with right now, and it's 66mm diameter. I'm not gonna buy double filters because they're so freaking expensive. So you buy an stepping ring, which are super cheap. I'm gonna put this one below, it's from K&F Concept, super inexpensive, and when you screw this in my Sigma Art, then you can add a 77mm filter. I didn't know this at the beginning, obviously I was browsing in the internet and I discovered it. And it's great because this costs nothing, you screw it in the other lens, and you have versatile filters for all your lenses if you buy more stepping rings. As usual, comment below if you have any questions, I'm always replying sooner or later, and I will see you next week. See you very soon. Ciao.